Hey guys, Will from Around the Grounds here, and in today's video we're going to be looking at a Round 1 NRL recap. We're going to be looking over all the games and what happened in those games. We're also going to be looking at the team of the week. We're going to find out who was the best players from each game, and we're going to put that into a little visual for you guys. But with that being said guys, let's jump straight into the video. Alright guys, the first game on Thursday, round 1, we saw Panthers versus Manly. I predicted this as a Panthers win, which I was correct in. I predicted a 19-18 Panthers win. However, I did not expect them to have such a dominant display because they won 28-6 in the end. They were just completely clinical in what they did that night. They just controlled the ruck. They didn't make any errors. Their forward pack just dominated Manly, and they laid the platform for their backs to do the rest. I thought without Nathan Cleary they might struggle, but Sean O'Sullivan had one of the best games I've seen. Someone that hasn't played as many games as him had. But yeah, for the Panthers, that was the best way they could start another year after winning the premiership, and for Manly they have to go back to the drawing board because they also suffered another big loss to one of the top sides, so we'll have to see how they can bounce back for that for next week. Alright, now moving on to the second game of the week, we had the Raiders versus the Cronulla Sharks. I predicted this game to be a Sharks win with a 15-14 score. I didn't get this tip right because the Raiders came back from the dead and they won 24-19 against the Sharkies. This game was very momentum based. The Raiders came out of the blocks, they had a good half, they were winning 18-6 I believe at halftime, and then the Sharks went into the dressing room and they just sort of rev up from whoever it was, because obviously Craig Fitzgibbon wasn't in the room because he has COVID, and they came back out as a different team. They looked probably the far better team for most of the second half. They got in front with a Matt Moylan field goal with about 5 minutes left, only for the Raiders to get a try in the last few minutes and win the game from the Sharks. I think this might be a turning point for the Raiders because a lot of last year they were losing games, like tight games based on referee decisions or whatever you want to blame it on, but they were losing close games. So being able to get the first game of the season in a close win in that fashion, that is really good for their confidence, and I think that will help them up in the future. Yeah, at the end of the day, this was the first game. Both these teams look good in parts of this game and bad in other parts, but I still think they're going to be fairly strong this year, and they're both going to be trying for those top 8 spots. Alright guys, now moving on to the Friday night game, we saw the Broncos versus the Rabbitohs, and oh my goodness, who would have predicted this score? The Broncos winning 11-4 at Suncorp Stadium. I had predicted South to win this quite comfortably, I believe. I predicted a 26-16 win to them, but that obviously wasn't the case. And for the Broncos, without Adam Reynolds, I gave them no chance, but they were actually quite good. I was watching part of the game and they looked fairly good for most of that game. They completed well, which is a good sign, at 83%, which if you compare that to the South, they were quite diabolical because they only completed 66%, which is not nearly enough for a side that was in the grand final last season. I think the Broncos forwards were immense, in particular Payne Haas as well as Patrick Carrigan. Kurt Capel did some good things too, and that field goal down, that is, I have never seen that, especially at the Panthers and the Cronulla Sharks. You would never pick this guy to move to the Broncos in his first game, captaining the club, to kick the winning field goal. That to me is just absolutely absurd, but that was a good way for him to win the hearts of the fans. But yeah, for the Rabbitohs, yeah, they just have to go reflect on that, watch the videos, see what they did wrong, and I think it's going to be tricky. I think it's going to take them a while to click into gear here for this season. However, they're going to be boosted because I believe Latrell Mitchell will be back for round 2, so hopefully he can help them out, which they really need after that performance. But yeah, overall a good performance from the Broncos, and we'll see if they can repeat that in round 2. Alright, now moving on to the fourth game of the round, and if you thought last game was a bit of a surprise, now look no further than this one. The Knights 20 defeated the Roosters 6. I don't think anybody saw this coming because the Roosters are pretty much full strength now. I predicted the Roosters to win 30-12, and obviously, as I just said, they lost 20-6. They were just completely, probably out-energized, I would say was the best word to describe that game. Some of the star players just looked a bit rusty. Tedesco wasn't as good as I've seen him, he had a bit of an off day. Yeah, but the Roosters really did not complete well. They only completed at 66% as well. They had a bunch of missed tackles as well, at 35 missed tackles compared to the Knights 13, which in the end you can probably see that's probably a bit of the difference of this game here, that the Knights made the tackles and the Roosters didn't. But yeah, Jake Clifford had quite a good game, and so did Adam Clune for their first time pairing up together in the NRL. Dane Gagai was immense as well, coming back to the Knights, and Dominic Young had a good showing for a winger that I did not rate before this season, but he had one good game, so we'll see if he can keep doing it. And for the Roosters, I'm not sure where they go from here. I think they just forget about that game, and I know Trent Robertson will get into them for next game and have them ready and firing to go, so I would not expect them to have such a bad performance again in round 2. So yeah, Alright, now moving on to the Warriors vs Dragons. This game was quite entertaining. To watch. Both sides were playing quite decently at a good level for them. I predicted this game. I think a Warriors 24-18 win is what I predicted. However, the end score was 28-16 to the Dragons. The Dragons looked quite good. They were looking quite sharp, especially in attack. They were looking quite good. And Mikhail Ravalawa, what a game he had. He got a hat-trick in the first round, so that is a really good performance for him. There were a few errors in this game. 12 errors for the Warriors, 9 errors for the Dragons, 8 penalties conceded for the Warriors, 4 for the Dragons. And that's probably where you can put the difference of this game to. I think the Dragons were a little bit more disciplined than the Warriors, and a little bit more error-free in the end, which I think is what got them the win. But yeah, we've got next week up for the Dragons with the Penrith Panthers, and that'll be a really good test to see where they're at, because after that performance, their attack was good, but their defense was a bit shaky at times. And against the Panthers, who look flash hot on Thursday, they're going to have to be really sharp with their defense in order to give them a run for their money. But after that performance, I think they're definitely contenders for top 8 if they can keep that up. But obviously consistency and Dragons is that does not go together, so we'll wait and see what happens there. For the Warriors, they got a few injuries. I think Shaun Johnson is now out for a few extended weeks, which might hurt them a little bit because I thought he looked decent in that game. So yeah, we'll see what the Warriors can do. But without Shaun Johnson, they might struggle a little bit. Alright, now moving on to the Tigers and the Storm. This game was also quite competitive, which was a bit of a surprise to me because I predicted the Storm to win 28-18. And I was actually quite close to that because they won 26-16 instead. So 2 points either side for both teams, and I was on the money. But the scoreline does not reflect how close this game was. I don't think the Tigers, they were up, I believe, 10-4 at half time. But the Storm being the Storm, they're professional. They have Craig Bellamy and whatnot. They have really good experienced players. And even though they still weren't amazing, they did the job and they got the win. And I think that's the most important thing, because if you lost that game there to the West Tigers, who, for the Tigers, they performed quite well. They were actually good. They had good periods of time during that game. But I think it was just the inexperience from the Tigers and the experience of the Melbourne Storm which got them the win in the end. Had they have lost that game, would have probably put some question marks on their ability to win the premiership or be in the top 4. But yeah, there's some positives to take out for that game for both teams, but I think probably more for the West Tigers to show that they can compete with the best of the best, or with the teams that are up there. The Storm made more missed tackles than the Tigers, so their defense was quite good, but I think it was just the discipline again, which is what let the Tigers down in the end, because they had more errors than the Storm. But yeah, so promising signs from the Tigers. If you're a Tigers fan, that's not the worst start to a season you could have, especially versus the Storm. And for the Storm, obviously there's just improvement they can do around the park. But I thought Xavier Coates was pretty good, and what a try he scored for his club debut. Alright guys, now moving on to the Sunday 4 PM game. We have the Eels versus the Titans. I predicted this game as an Eels win, which I was correct with, but I predicted 16-10, and that was far from the mark because this game was a points galore game. With the Eels eventually running out victors with a 32-28 win. This was such a good and entertaining game to watch. If this is the precedent for what's to come this year, I'm excited. Sean Russell scored 3 tries in the half before he got taken to hospital, I think, because he punctured his lung or something from Jaden Campbell sliding in, I think, with his knees, trying to save his last try that he got, which was quite courageous for Sean Russell to do that. But the Titans, they looked good too. They had some really good moments in that game. I thought they were going to win. After halftime, they started well, they were in the lead, they were doing well, but then it just sort of started to turn for the Eels towards the end of that game. The discipline of the Titans was sort of going away towards the end of that game, and I think the Eels' experience at the end of the day just won them the game with Mitchell Moses' kicking game, as well as some other experienced players laying the platform. And the completion rate for the Titans was not good enough, and that's probably why they lost the game. They only completed 67%, 21 out of 31 sets. There were a lot of missed tackles in this game, 33 from the Eels and 31 from the Titans, and a lot of errors as well, especially from the Titans, and they conceded penalties. The penalty count here was 1 for the Eels and 7 conceded for the Titans, which is also probably contributing to why the Eels got so much field position, and in the end of the day, that's why they scored some of their points to get in front and kick some penalty goals at the end of the game to win them the game. Obviously positives for both sides to take out of this game. It's hard to read into this game because the defense for both teams was quite poor, so that honestly was just a shootout, an old style shootout game with the best attack wins. The best discipline is going to win that game as well. But yeah, we'll see what both these sides can do in round 2, but what a game this was. Alright guys, now moving on to the last game that we had for this week. We got the Cowboys versus the Bulldogs, with the Bulldogs winning this one 6-4. I predicted the Cowboys to win this game 22-18, which was not correct. This game was probably a bit scrappy. The completion rate from both sides wasn't amazing. The Bulldogs had 76%, whereas the Cowboys had 68%. There were a few errors in this game, 12 from the Cowboys, 11 from the Bulldogs, with 15 penalties combined. There wasn't a whole lot to take out of this. The Bulldogs looked good in parts. There were some combinations that looked to click in the end of that game, especially like Matt Burton and Matt Duffy as well. They combined quite well for a disallowed try, which was taken away from them due to a forward pass. Tom Gilbert got a try for the Cowboys and he looked good. But yeah, hard to take much from this game. It was a bit of a scrap fest, but a good sign I could say is that both sides defended well enough to only allow one try in. Whether that's put down to their defense or them both not being able to attack that well or being clunky in attack remains to be seen. We'll see that in the next few weeks. But with that being said, guys, let's move on to the team of the week. Alright guys, starting with fullback now, I've gone with Dylan Edwards. He was Mr. Everywhere on Thursday night. Like anywhere in the piece you just see him pop up. His kick returns, he just come back and he'd return the ball quite hard. And he helped his team out of trouble, supporting runs, you name it. I believe he got 300 running meters, which is quite good, especially for a fullback. That just shows that he's fit and ready to go for this season. He was just courageous and he did everything right, so that's why I put him in my team of the week. Alright guys, now for the wingers, I've gone with Mikael Ravalawa, who scored 3 tries and he had a massive game for the Dragons. He just looked like a beast. He looked like, it was kind of like Mike Acevo-esque. That's kind of the vibe I got from Mikael Ravalawa that game. He was finishing well, he was just powering over people and bringing the ball out well. A few errors there, he got an error off the kickoff which I think he dropped, but he bounced back from that and scored his last try and got the hat-trick in the end, so that's why I've got him as one of my wingers. The other winger I've gone with is Sean Russell. He only played one half, but gee, what a half he had. He scored 3 tries as well. He was courageous, heroic, put his body on the line, which in the end is why he got injured. Don't know how long he's going to be out for now, but if he can get back into the team, he's going to be fighting for his spot alongside other players when they return, such as Mike Acevo and co. Alright guys, now moving on to the centres. The first centre I've gone with is Dane Gagai. He was game changing, he was energetic, he brought that experience from the South over to the Knights and he really helped his team out there when they needed him and did his job absolutely perfectly, and he's a good buy for the Knights. And the other centre I've gone with is Isaac Tago from the Panthers. You can get excited with his attacking plays. He had good attacking contributions and stuff, but that's not why he's in there. I think he made really good defensive reads and he put some good shots on some other players. I think there was one part where he absolutely just ironed out Tom Trbojevic, which you rarely see. So for a player that young, I think he's 19 or something, to do that, it's quite impressive. And I've tipped him to have quite a big season, so that's why I put him in my team of the week. Alright, now moving on to my 5'8", I've gone with Jake Clifford. He controlled the game well and he pretty much took the game in his own hands. I was a bit skeptical of him coming up to the Knights because I never really had rated him at the Cowboys that well. Like, he was decent, but he was never something amazing. So hopefully this is the start of him going towards the peak of his career and peak of his game, because if he can do that, that'll help out the Knights this season, because I thought the Knights might struggle this season, but if he can continue to play how he did on the weekend, then the world's the oyster for the Knights and we'll see how good they can go. To partner Jake Clifford in the halves, I've gone with Panthers halfback Sean O'Sullivan. For someone so young to fill the boots of Nathan Cleary so well as he did was really impressive. He kicked well, he set up tries and try assists, and he played his part very well. He also didn't overplay his hand, which is quite important, because sometimes young players will come in here and try to fill in the void of someone such as Nathan Cleary, and they'll just overplay their hand, they'll make some mistakes, and in the end that'll cost their team. But he didn't do that. He played really well, kicked really well, and he just looked like he enjoyed every moment of that, and that's all you can ask for someone that's coming in and playing just one of his, I think his first game for the Panthers, his original club. Alright, now moving on to the forwards at prop, I've gone with Payne Haas. He's just Mr. Reliable. He laid the platform for the Broncos and their forwards, and he just led by example, and he helped the Broncos pretty much run over the Rabbitohs forward pack, if I'm going to be honest. He didn't get any tries or anything like that, but he was just very, very effective in what he did when he was on the field, and so that's why I've gone as my prop. The other prop I've gone with is James Fisher-Harris. He's also Mr. Reliable. He's hard worker. He's got good offloads, and also something that's underrated for James Fisher-Harris is his quick play the balls. You see him get down, he gets tackled, he gets straight up, plays the ball fast, and it helps his team out, especially with the team they have momentum based. It's very important for their forwards to be able to do so. But yeah, these two absolutely just destroyed in round 1. Alright, now moving on to the hooker, I've gone with another Panther. I've gone with Api Coruscant. He's crafty, he also scored a try, and he just takes advantage of the ruck. There's so many times in that game where the Manly markers were caught off guard, and Coruscant took advantage of that by either shielding behind them, picking up an extra 15 metres or so. He just did that a numerous amount of times. And he also has really good trickery as well, especially when they're attacking. It's very hard to read, and that just helps the Panthers even more. And so he had a really good game. He also defended well and tackled well, so that's why I've got him as my hooker for the team of the week. Alright, now moving on to the second rowers, first one I've gone with is Hudson Young. What a game he had. He got the match winner, and he kind of just stood out during the game. He did really well, and I think if he can continue these performances and then just keep rising as a player, that'll help out the Raiders a lot, because they also need to have some good edge rollers. They're in need of that. They have been for a little while, so him standing up in the first round and getting the match winner and playing quite well is impressive. The other second rower I've gone with to partner him is Kurt Capewell. Speaking of winning matches, this man did it by kicking a field goal. I have not seen a second rower kick a field goal in a very, very long time, if ever. And he captained the Broncos in his first game, and he literally just led by example. And that's all you can ask for someone who was a premiership player as of last year, premiership winner should I say, and he just played very well this game, and he's laid the platform for the forwards and for the standards for the Broncos for the remainder of the season. Alright, and now moving into our last position, the lock forward. This goes to none other than Isaiah Yeo from the Panthers. He was absolutely immense for the Panthers. He was a link forward for the Panthers. He just did so much for the attacking players, and he defended well. He leads the team very well, and he captained them that game, obviously because Nathan Cleary could not play. But if you just watch him, his ball playing is so useful, so good. He sets up so much of the Panthers' attack, and without him, their attack would be quite clunky. And I think we saw that a few times last season when he didn't play. So that's why I put him in my team of the week. Alright, so guys, now that is my team of the week, as you can see there. So with that being said, that is also the end of the video. Guys, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. That'll help out the channel a lot. Comment who you guys think was in the team of your team of the week, and I'll have a look and see what you guys thought. Also, I'll get some round 2 tips out tomorrow. I think Wednesday night I'll have them out roughly. So you guys really smashed that first round 1 tips video out, so I appreciated that a lot. So yeah, that one will come out tomorrow night, and I'll try to keep being consistent with these uploads. But anyway guys, thanks for watching and take care.